Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another video. It has been a while since our last major market update on CRV. If you want to go back and check that one out, please do so. But today we're going to do an overview market outlook, and a little bit different here is a chart I've made where we're using the Bitcoin divided by the SPX, the Bitcoin versus stock market, and we're overlaying that with the red line here, which is gold. And as you can see, over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so, you can see gold tends to peak at times just before the cryptocurrency markets really starts to outperform the Bitcoin market. We've got two examples here. One in 2017 that led to a potential rotation of capital as gold started to move down, and the Bitcoin versus the SPX really started to outperform the stock market there. You can see that time period almost led to around a 105-day period where gold had topped out, and it seems like capital rotation led into the cryptocurrency market, which led it to outperform the stock market here for a good 100-day period. And again, back in 2020, we saw gold top back in August 2020. It went in for a dramatic fall to the downside as rotation of capital seemed to enter the cryptocurrency market versus the stock market, which is that 2021 big run, all of the hype in the crypto market. Likely where most people entered, and a lot of people got wrecked. But right now, what we're seeing in gold is a potential top-in structure here. Very, very overextended move. If that's not the top, then I would assume the top is coming in very, very soon. That last top of gold led to a rotation of capital that took about 200 days. So we've got a 100-day period back in 2018, and we've got a 200-day period here in 2021. So maybe the time of capital rotation and the fact that there's more capital now in the gold market, maybe that might outline that we're potentially entering a phase where maybe it's going to take a little bit longer than 200 days for that capital rotation to happen. Or maybe it goes in for another 100-day period. But I am expecting something like this in gold now, where we start to really do get a decline in the market, and maybe like in last periods where we've seen Bitcoin really outperform the stock market. We're going in for a very nice trend line retest here, so I think it makes no sense to get really bearish at this point, especially as our outlook on Bitcoin has always been that $140,000 to $180,000 region. I do believe that is going to come to fruition, but I also believe the remaining ROI in the market, the best ROI, is actually in the altcoins. And specifically, a big allocation for myself has been over the last couple of months building Ethereum and CRV positions, leverage and spot as well. So I am relying on the fact that I do believe that this capital rotation now is going to come to fruition from gold, and we're going to potentially head into a period outperformance for Bitcoin versus the stock market. I think we're seeing a lot of tech stocks potentially topped. We've seen them falls go -40%, -50% in the stock market, some big stocks. So where's that capital going to rotate to? It makes sense for the big players, in my opinion, to rotate them capital profits, or even a percentage of those, to some of the altcoins in the market. So this is how I can see the gold and the Bitcoin versus the SPX chart playing out over the next couple of 3 to 6 months, let's say. We can try and look for narratives that we can look for gold to drop. What narrative makes gold go up? It usually is a war narrative. So if we start to see maybe ending of conflict, maybe that could be the narrative to go to the fact that gold is going through a drop, and maybe that could also be the narrative that we see the Fed pivot, interest rates lower, injection of liquidity into the markets from the Federal Reserve to really get that last leg of the cycle going. So yeah, this is the gold overlaid the Bitcoin versus the SPX. An interesting chart that shows about a 100 to 200 day lag and a potential capital rotation. So let's jump into the actual Bitcoin chart right now. We'll get everything off here. And we'll just look from an overall perspective of where Bitcoin is. This last recent move, we've had a nice retrace of around the 61.8 and around a 50% correction from that most recent drive to the upside. And my base case has still always been, you know, that $120,000, $140,000 region. And if the stock market is a little bit stagnant and a little bit stale, and we start to see the Bitcoin market really rise at this point, and the stocks are not really doing much, maybe that can cause the extra push in the Bitcoin versus the SPX chart. So don't get confused with the fact that Bitcoin can outperform the SPX and really go a little bit more parabolic than the fact that Bitcoin does against the US dollar. So yeah, just remember that one. So our analysis over the last couple of months has really been on Ethereum and CRV. We've had really good positions being built on CRV. Our last YouTube video was on CRV, and we got some very nice entries, as you can see here from the entry plan that we posted on the Patreon back in last year at some point, actually, where we saw the major drive to the upside, and we started to enter the CRV market around 37 cent, around 47 cent, and yeah, buy zone 1 and 2, very nice buy zones. We did have an extra buy zone down there just in case we got major capitulation, but our main focus was on buy zone number 1 and buy zone number 2 there. We built them positions, bigger buys at buy zone number 2, and from them levels we're really now looking at a nice, you know, 100% move there for CRV from buy zone number 2. So as we doubled those buys at buy zone number 2, it puts us at instant profit here, and our exit plan on CRV is looking something like this right now. A very conservative exit could be a 20% exit at around 76 cents, just for a potential flash crash and a bullish candle fill for maybe another entry. But for the higher time frame hodlers, for the higher time frame investors, I do believe looking at TP2, TP3 is more so a strategic plan, and then TP4 all-time highs. If we get there, we're absolutely laughing. So if you missed that last video on YouTube, just go back to my last video. It was on CRV, just discussing the lower time frame as well. And we got some really good leverage position entries in the Patreon. And so we'll move into Ethereum right now. And our overall perspective on Ethereum is the fact that, you know, we're potentially coming into a bottoming structure here, and our higher time frame targets are always going to be around the $8,000 region. Of course, I've got an exit plan and an entry plan that I posted on the Patreon as well, but I'm not going to share every single one of those exit sorry guys, exit strategies and entry strategies on the YouTube, just because that's what the Patreon's there for, so people can see my entry and exit strategies. We did come into a buy zone for Ethereum. We have left that buy zone right now, so I wouldn't consider adding at $1,600, $1,700. More so focusing on that $1,400 region, just for an overall perspective of entry zone 1 and entry zone 2. We don't want to be raising our dollar cost average into pumps. We always try and focus on the dumps and lowering that dollar cost average, because by the time pumps come around and people are raising their dollar cost average levels, then you're asking to be hurt by the market. You're asking to withstand more drawdown. Even if you do go through a potential buy as you get a market pump back to potential resistance, and then you get the drop. If you buy up here, you're potentially going to be going through so much more psychological pain with that drawdown. Whereas if you're buying at 1,400, 1,500, maybe you could take 10% out there and withstand that little drawdown. These are all little strategies that you can follow as time goes on. But yeah, people will likely wait for the pump back to these retrace levels for Ethereum to buy back in. You get a little bit of a pullback and they sell because they think that that's resistance and we're going to go for more lows, when really you're just getting a simple, maybe a free wave move back to the upside, or maybe you're getting a start of an impulse, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all things that we can just monitor as time goes on. But to be honest guys, for Ethereum, my longer term perspective here is the fact that if we just change it to the log chart, we've been going through a correction since 2021, and we're just lagging Bitcoin here. And it's almost absolutely perfect here. The fact that maybe we're just getting a triangular correction that the market now needs to free wave back up, which would confuse a lot of Elliott wave Elliotticians, because maybe people that are looking for 5 waves here for Ethereum will see this as a free wave move and think, right, we're going to crash lower, when in reality we've just got a free, 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 free. Then we'd get a free wave move back to these levels where people are maybe going to enter here. So if people are entering long at this breakout level, they'll likely get stopped out at some point for that potential big triangular correction, with our major targets being at around $8,000 regions for Ethereum. More likely heading into that $12,000 region, but we want to be at least a little bit conservative um, with our plans and our strategies and our targets, because at this point you're going to have a lot of people calling for 50,000, 100,000, but you want to get them targets because these people have to buy back in at the top, because that's when their confidence returns to the market. Whereas when you've got people that are buying down low, buying the dips, buying the real capitulations, entering with entry plans and exit plans, then you're following a strategy and you're not relying on any emotions to get you through the market. Simply following the waves as time goes on, going with the flow and letting the market do the work. So what we're going to do is just jump into the total market cap right now to finish off. So we'll jump back into a regular scale, and you can see from current move back to the upside, that full wave to the upside, very similar to Bitcoin. We actually went through a bit more of a bigger correction for the total market cap. Went a little bit deeper than what I expected, but we're never going to get everything 100% correct. Anybody telling you that you're going to get everything 100% correct in the market is just lying to you. Basically, you have to have risk parameters in place, and you have to be able to understand you're going to be wrong at some points in the market. But I do believe heading into the future, we're going to head into at least a $4 to $5 trillion region for the total market cap. And that could really coincide with the transition from gold to the cryptocurrency market, gold to Bitcoin, and then maybe a little bit of capital rotation through the altcoin market. And maybe that's when we see the Bitcoin dominance finally get a sharp fall. A lot of people are saying that an alt season will never happen again, and I think that's absolutely false. I do think we'll get an alt season. I said that was going to be my last chart, but we'll jump into Bitcoin dominance. I seriously really do believe that we're going to get a massive drop in dominance to around 41 to 42%. I don't think we go for the lows. Many people are calling for all-time lows in Bitcoin dominance. I really don't see that, but we've seen this type of wave structure play out a lot on Bitcoin dominance before, where you get them fast spikes to the upside before major drops. Every single time we've had an alt season, just before we had a major spike, and them spikes tend to last around 100 to 150 days. Similar here, let's take a look. Around 100 days, yeah. So let's say 100 to 150 days. I would expect by the start of May, June, that we're going to really start to see some fall in dominance, whether we go higher first and we see Bitcoin really get a bit of capital rotation from gold, and then we have to see the capital rotation play out, and maybe that just coincides with dominance going up for that final spike and then going in for the big drops. We just have to wait and see, guys. But we've had some majorly good entries recently on Ethereum, on CRV. We've been really sticking to a plan and sticking to the fact that we're going to focus on major coins rather than a lot of low caps, which are a little bit more uncertain. So the big plans that we've had over the last couple of months in the Patreon for Ethereum, for CRV, and a couple of other coins are really starting to come into fruition now, with big leverage positions being built and really good spot positions being built as well. So we're sat back, relaxed, we're letting the market do the work. We'll see how this one plays out, but very good feeling about the remaining part of this cycle. Again, I'll reiterate, I think that $120,000 to $140,000 region for Bitcoin will likely be the top. Maybe we go further, maybe we don't, but up to now, we seem to have played this cycle very nicely with decent profit takes at good levels. Yep, we could have had more profit takes at better levels, and yet we could have had some more entries at lower levels. But we're never going to get everything 100% correct. We play the probabilities, we sit back, relax, we let the market do the work, and we take it easy. So take it easy, guys, and I'll see you next time. It's not financial advice.